Miracles under the sun. Greece is said to have 1,000 islands. In fact, there are at least 3 times as many. Welcome to a journey of discovery through the islands of Greece. Our series takes us to the archipelago on the edge of the European mainland. Starting in Corfu, we travel to Paxi and Paxos, where we take a short detour to the mainland, only to go further south towards Lefkada, Ithaca, Cephalonia, and finally Zakynthos. Together with musician Myrto and the Bouras family, we get to know Corfu city as a place with wondrous Greek Easter traditions. Orchid expert Yorgos shows us his English cemetery and tenderly attends to his future tombstone. People from Corfu show us their love for a very British sport. Apostolos demonstrates a use for olive oil by introducing us to the art of soap making. In Amodia, Yorgos brings us to the edge of the Greek underworld in his boat. Vasileios shares with us his desire for distant places. In Lefkada, Ilias takes us fishing in a lagoon. And on Zakynthos, Laurent protects very special sea creatures on picturesque beaches, which once also caught the eye of cigarette smugglers. The Ionian Islands are more humid and therefore greener than the rest of Greece. This land has experienced friction not only due to the movement of the Eurasian continental plate, but also caused by the different dynasties fighting for hegemony, leaving behind an impressive cultural legacy. Close to the Albanian coast lies Kerkyra, meaning Corfu city in Greek. It is the capital of the island of Corfu. People in the streets are preparing for a big celebration, and many visitors are expected to visit the island during the Easter holidays. They come mainly for the music. Numerous bands and orchestras will escort processions all over the city. Myrto Michalopoulou is part of the Philharmonic Society and is preparing for her performance. For now, it's classical flute music, although later tonight we will hear quite a different tune.
The processions started many years ago, centuries ago, to honor the relics of Saint Spiridon. The first music group was the Philharmonic Society of Corfu, now called the Old One. Since then, many such groups have been founded in Corfu, 19 or 20.
Myrto is proud to be a part of it, and has even come to Corfu from the mainland just to attend the Easter processions. Easter celebrations start with every Corfu inhabitant lighting a candle. During the holidays, the city is buzzing, not only with locals, but also with many continental Greeks and tourists visiting the island. Easter on this Ionian island is somewhat legendary. Clay pots are sold in the streets to be used for a very special Corfu custom. Musicians in their last preparations. In the next few days, Greek marching bands will be the greatest sight on Corfu, a custom which originated during British occupation more than 150 years ago. The Bouros family is already well supplied with clay pots. The paterfamilias waters all of the ceramics so that they don't splinter later when they are smashed. The Bouros live in the best part of the city. The Austrian Empress Sissi herself witnessed the festivities of the Easter procession from a balcony right here. It is here where, after the procession is ended, a unique part of the celebrations takes place. Aren't you afraid that the pots might hit someone on the head? Mother's mostly afraid.
Mother is always afraid. Afraid of a big bang.
Has something happened before? No, we always take good care. People know about it and step aside. Everything is set and ready for clay pots to be thrown from the balconies. The bigger, the better. This tradition is probably of pagan origin, addressing spring and fertility. In order to make room for pots with young sprouts, the old ones were simply thrown away. But there is also an official Christian version, referring to the resurrection of Christ. This new beginning needed room. Everything that was old had to go. As long as the weather is fine, processions continue. At the same time, all over the city, everyone is up and about, just like enthusiastic Myrto.
Μας αρέσει εμείς η μουσική περισσότερο το νιώθουμε και πιο έντονα.
We like it a lot.
Λόγω ότι όλη μέρα είμαστε στον
We
δρόμο.
musicians experience it more intensely because we're out on the street all day, enjoying the festivities to the fullest. And most songs have a melancholic aspect, which really touches us emotionally.
Και μας συνεπέρνει όλο αυτό το συναίσθημα.
The musicians are assured once again that the Lord is being kind to them. The weather respects the tight schedule, and there are just a few signs of bad weather in the early afternoon. Before the evening processions start, it is dried off enough, at least enough for the festive committee.
Even when it rains, we're always there, whatever our responsibilities. And we simply will not miss the party. Rain or no rain, we never miss the party.
Although it's been a strenuous day so far, everybody knows that bedtime is a long way off.
We're a group, a family, and we stick together. The group unites us, a big family. There are no outsiders.
Whereas the music started slow and solemn on Holy Saturday, it gets faster and more exciting during the course of the day, representing the Passion of Christ from the crucifixion to the resurrection. Close to midnight, the whole town meets on the former parade ground near the ocean. Everyone is simmering with excitement, for the highlight of the day is near.
I love it when all the orchestras gather here every year at Easter. We all come together and show that there is no competition between us.
Finally, the procession reaches the festival ground, led by the bishop and other clerics, each carrying a different icon. When all candles are burning and the bishop has spoken his blessings, it's time for the long-awaited highlight: fireworks.
It's been like this for many years, and we want these traditions to survive. That's what Easter is all about, culture and customs. All of us, from the youngest to the oldest, put a lot of effort into it and hope that the tradition will be maintained for many years.
I think that's an interesting thing.
This one piece will make 52 layers.
Watch on mobile devices or the big screen. All for free. No subscription required.
Very close to the city, we find Pontikonisi, a small island with a chapel from the 17th century. Supposedly, Austrian Empress Sissi rested here after swimming over all the way from the neighboring peninsula. Locally, Pontikonisi is referred to as Odysseus' ship. But according to legend, Odysseus' home was a lot further south. He probably never saw this part of the world. During the Venetian reign, only selected citizens were allowed to have their coffee here. These nobles were listed in a golden book, hence the name of the place, Liston. When the British came, their officers started playing cricket. Common people watched, full of curiosity, but not for long, at least according to Joseph Nikitas.
We play cricket since 1823, when English officials start to play the game here. So slowly the Greeks learn the rules, learn the game, love it, and still now we play cricket in Greece, in Corfu especially.
Joseph Nikitas, president of the Cricket Society on Corfu, loves this sport.
I used to play since I was 6 years old. In this square I started, and I played for many years for my club. I was the captain of the national team, and now I'm the president of the federation, and my sons continue to play cricket.
It's right here where Joseph Nikitas already played as a little boy, on this pasture right next to the classy Liston. The lawn looks very neat, maybe a little moist. Besides Josef's personal success, numerous other teams have had their moment of triumph on this turf. Among them, not only teams from Greece, but also from other countries affiliated with the Commonwealth, like Australia or England. That is how the former parade ground became one of the most desired cricket grounds in the world, at least as long as the weather plays along.
Yeah, we have sometimes English weather.
Grass that is too wet to play on is nothing new for the people of Corfu, especially in the spring. Games have to be cancelled from time to time. Acheron has been the capital of the island since ancient times. World War II, however, brought heavy bombings to the city, first by the Italians, then the Germans, and then even by the Allies. Afterwards, the city was rebuilt, if only partly. Vegetation conquered the free spaces. One of these green domes hides a secret. On the edge of this historic city, we find a relic from British colonial times, an English cemetery. This is where Yorgos Psailas has spent his whole life.
I born in cemetery, in this house, and now 84 years old. Died my father in 44, and I from the 44 gardener here. Yes.
The English cemetery is a place of peace and quiet. Time seems to be standing still. Numerous rare orchids flourish here. It is a safe haven for nearly extinct plants, some so rare they can only be found on Corfu. Every now and then, botanists from all over the world come here to admire this exclusive floral splendor.
The German come in Corfu and visit specialist botanic photo the Orchideion. The Orchideion, ooh, yes.
Yorgos is very proud of his little Garden of Eden, which he loves to present to visitors. Girls especially like it a lot. With all these flowers here, are you the girl's favorite? They love me. I can't do anything about it. From time to time, I get a little kiss. That's it. Orchids are a delicate topic, though. Why are they called orchids? All flowers have one root. Hyacinths have one bulb. So do tulips. Orchids have two, just like our testicles.
Τα ζουμπούλια έχουν ένα βολβό, one bulb. Tulip, one bulb. Οι ορχιδέες έχουν δύο, όπως είναι τα αρχίδια μας. Και γι' αυτό λέγονται orchids. Orchid, the name from this orchid. Yes, this, because two bulb, the orchidean, yes.
Orchid derives from the Greek word for testicles. Yorgos speaks 3 languages and loves talking to the visitors who come to his cemetery. Yorgos lives among the dead and knows stories about each and every grave. With a smirk on his face, he tells us the story of one of his favorite graves. He died while sleeping with his lover, his secretary. She was very young. His wife was in England. She wanted his body to be brought to England. But when she found out how he died, she said, no. After that, I don't know how many years later, his wife also died in England. Her ashes were brought here, and even her name was engraved here, the name of his real wife. Oh, what stories. Yorgos even received a medal from the British as protector of the graves of soldiers. 32 sailors are buried here. They were sailors from a British swift boat who died after their captain maneuvered them into an Albanian minefield. The war had already ended.
Mr. Salisbury, the first captain come in Albania. Eto, the name. This. Very sad, very, very sad. Mr. Selsby, the first captain, because in Corfu, in holiday, and women, and yes, and after, come in Albania. Γι' αυτό το λόγο ήθελε να
He just wanted to impress the women and be the hero.
Το μπαλικαρά. Κατάλαβες, γιατί εδώ πέρα γάμισε. After 2 years, come in Corfu, the first captain, Mr. Selby, and come here.
2 years later, full of regret, the captain returned. This actually impressed Yorgos. The captain got down on his knees, eventually even laid down in front of the graves of the men whose death he had caused, and started crying. Yorgos, whom many just call George, not only guards the cemetery, he has become its soul. The cemetery is his big love, and he wants to be buried here.
Ο τάφος μου. Όταν πεθάνω, είπα στο παιδί μου να με
I
θάψει
told
εδώ,
my son
όχι στο
to be
άλλο
buried
το
here when I
γραφείο, η
die.
οικογένειά μου θα μένει εκεί.
Not in the other cemetery where my family is buried. Here, because from here I can see him entering.
Την είσοδο ποιος μπαίνει. I look from here, the entrance.
Two days later, the weather has cleared. The sun is shining. The whole bay is dipped in the most beautiful colors, colors only found in spring. The sun also dries the meadow near the Liston. Now they can play cricket again. An English team is challenging the host. Rules are not easy to understand for outsiders. Professionals claim that at least 3 pages of densely written text are necessary to describe even the most basic rules. Some rules can be observed. One team tries to hit the wicket behind the opposing batsman with the ball. Obviously, the other team tries to prevent this by hitting the ball with the bat. This, however, is just one small fragment of the game. And all this ideally happens without the hard ball hitting any cars or windows.
We put some protection. We have nets all over there. But sometimes these glasses are broken. Like last week, for example, we broke a glass here of this cafe bar, but they never complain that they like cricket, they love cricket, and there is no problem for us.
Over time, Greek teams became very confident, thus having a real chance against the teams from the country in which cricket was born. Especially if there is no English weather, but dry and hot Greek weather instead. The hotter the sun, the hotter the game.
We win very often because the weather is with us. You know, it's 40 degrees. It's not very comfortable for the English. So we win the game because of the hot sometimes. But we are really good. You know, it's after so many years we have very good clubs, strong clubs. And the point is to win the English clubs, so they come back again. They want to be stronger, and so there is a competition between us here.
Behind the harbor in the new part of Corfu city is an industrial area. This is where we find Apostolos Patounis soap factory, established in 1850. Once there used to be many of these factories on Corfu, making soap from oil, soda, and salt. But when shampoo and industrial soaps were invented, sales declined. Still, Apostolos factory survived as the only one in all of Greece.
It is an old family business of 5 generations. It started from my great-great-grandfather, great-grandfather, grandfather, father, and now me.
The secret to his success? He only uses natural and high-quality ingredients. And his customers appreciate that and are willing to pay a little more for the soap that is free of chemical additives. In general, Apostolos only trusts olive oil directly from the island, palm oil, or one other natural resource, oil specially made from olive pits. His soaps are colored accordingly.
This soap here is most cleaning and most antiseptic soap. In my opinion, this is the total soap. It's good for everything. In old days, there was no shampoo in old days because shampoo is detergent and is a modern discovery. In old days, people washed with soap. They used the green olive soap from top to toe.
Apostolos and his co-workers produce up to 30 or 40 tons of soap per year, mainly for export. Manufacturing takes weeks. Maturation and drying in the wood racks alone takes 1 month. This also holds true for the kind of soap used as detergent.
Imagine 100 years ago, people didn't even have bathrooms in the houses, so they would wash themselves once a week or maybe once a month. But they needed clean clothes every day, so this was a very important product. It was a matter of hygiene and healthiness.
Apostolos has to check their purity very thoroughly, because this soap is made only with natural products, without adding any dye, preservatives, or perfumes. Something he isn't used to, for he initially learned something entirely different.
I enjoyed engineering, so I studied mechanical engineering at the time, and I worked as a mechanical engineer for a while. But then later on, I discovered that there was a lot of cultural heritage on this thing, and I didn't want to let go of it. So it was then that I decided to change and turn to soap.
Nowadays, Apostolos is very glad to have preserved the cultural heritage that is soap. We travel further in an easterly direction. On the city's doorstep, we find Achilleion, an Art Nouveau temple that Austrian Empress Sissi chose as a summer residence. Erudite 19th century Europeans were especially fascinated by Greek mythology. There is a statue of its eponym in the garden, victorious Achilles. Its sparkling spearhead could allegedly be seen all the way to Corfu city, before it came weather-beaten, that is. Just around the corner, we find the Emperor's throne. German Kaiser William II loved to be chauffeured close to this lookout in his Mercedes so he could enjoy the sunset over the Ionian Sea. we keep going southeast. While our journey started in Corfu, it now leads us to Paxos and Paxos. From there to the mainland, and after that to Lefkada. First, we visit Corfu's neighboring island, Paxos, an island that is calmer and more reflective. Its name derives from the Latin word for peace. Indeed, there are no airports or big hotels here. Not even camping is permitted. The soil on Paxos was always very porous, which led to the problem of retaining drinking water. Islanders used to carve wells and water basins into the stone to collect rainwater, something that was useful especially in winter. Nowadays, plastic tanks are used, but the small amount of fresh water is still an issue. With fresh water being so precious, there is very little sewage contaminating the ocean. Crystal clear water and chalk cliffs with numerous caves and grottos attract many sailors and divers. South of Paxos, we find Paxos, an island even less populated than its sibling, Paxos. Our journey takes us away from these two islands, 20 kilometers towards the Greek mainland. All the way to Acheron, the river to Hades, the underworld of Greek mythology. Due to the lack of suitable bridges and streets, locals as well as tourists depend on a ferryman to travel along the mouth of the river. His name, although, is not the mythological Acheron, but Yorgos Bitsos. First, he explains how his predecessor brought the dead to Hades. There's an old tradition in our villages. When someone dies, you put a coin on the eyes, under the tongue, or between the fingers. This is done so the dead can pay for their passage into the underworld. Anyone without an obolus was left at the riverbank by Acheron. No one is left behind on my watch, even if I'm not paid, because I don't want them to be afraid. And Acheron is dead and made me his deputy.
Αλλά θα σας πω κάτι. Δεν θέλω κάποιος να φοβηθεί που θα σας πω κάτι. Επειδή ο Χάρος έχει πεθάνει και έχει αφήσει αντικαταστάτη εμένα.
This is where loved ones came to contact their dead. Just like his father and grandfather, Yorgos accompanies everyone looking for the Necromantion, the oracle of death. He knows about the ruses that priests use to trick those looking for answers.
Τους ταΐζανε με κουκιά αυτά τα λούπινα της εποχής.
They were fed lupinus, beans and bacon, smoked hashish and laurel leaves. So visitors began hallucinating. Now they would tell the priest everything. This is how he got to know everything he needed in order to exploit it to his advantage, just like fortune tellers have been doing ever since. Despite being a modern man and not being superstitious, even Yorgos feels that there is something odd about the Acheron.
Και παλαιότερα, όπως μας λένε τώρα
My father and grandfather told me they used to hear screaming and voices here. Even late at night, maybe until 1 a.m., one could hear screaming. And they were afraid that something might happen in the river.
Φοβόταν ότι κάτι ήταν μέσα στο ποταμό.
Our journey takes us further across the mainland, passing the Acheron Delta and all the way back to the open sea towards Lefkas. This is Vasilios Farmakis, captain of the Phaneromeni. If you choose this profession and become a merchant navy officer, your desire for the sea must be enormous. In spite of his love for distant places, Vasilios is on a very special mission at the moment, right here in Lefkas. His ship, Phaneromeni, the Visual, is currently anchored in the Lefkas Canal for a very special reason. All kinds of vehicles enter the ship. And the captain watches them leave the ferry on the other side. Lefkas lacks a bridge over the canal that separates the peninsula from the mainland. Vasilios only needs to start the engine once every couple of hours to make way for small ships passing through the canal. This is how he became captain of a swimming bridge. Nothing spectacular, but with regular hours. I prefer this job to the alternative, to be honest. Many of my colleagues would love to have my job. On the other hand, I sometimes forget that I am actually a sailor. Vasilios anchors on the single breach leading to a lagoon. Its calm waters make it a good harbor, a paradise for yachtsmen. As well as for local fishermen. Long beaches separate inland waters from the open sea. The Romans dug a canal here and watched over it jealously from this fort. Today, fisherman Ilias Papoutsopoulos is on his way to the lagoon. My grandfather and my father were fishermen too. But I'm the only one holding on to this profession because I just love the sea too much. I just love fishing the old way. Ancient fishermen loved and respected the sea and the fish a lot. Over the years, Ilias saw many changes, faster boats and modern methods that led to overfishing. Ilias prefers the traditional method instead. These harpoons are used to catch fish. When the female sea bass are gravid, their bellies itch and they come out to scratch themselves. This is when we use harpoons to catch them. Obviously, it is easier to catch more fish using modern trawls. But the traditional method shows who really knows what they're doing. The danger of overfishing remains negligible. There were 250 fishermen and their families living in Lefkada alone, not counting the rest of the island. Today, there are 10 families. The sea needs to be protected. Some areas need a total fishing ban for 3 or 4 years. Otherwise, the fish cannot recover. Lefkada really has a chance of making a difference. The shallow waters and lagoons are like natural aquacultures. There is plenty of food and the fish procreate in large numbers, a refuge for overfished species, as long as they are left alone. Successive troughs of low pressure from the Mediterranean regions and the notias from the Sahara, filled up with condensed water, regularly bring heavy rains. It rains 3 times as much as in Athens, leading to a steady supply of fresh water. And our journey goes on. Leaving Lefkada, we are headed to Skorpios, Ithaca, Cephalonia, and finally Zakynthos, the last stop on our adventure. But first, let's take a look at the noblest of all private islands in the Mediterranean. Just east of Lefkas lies Skorpios. No trespassing. This island once belonged to Aristotle Onassis. The youngest heir, his granddaughter Athena, often came here with an entourage of no less than 600 people. After that, the island was put up for sale. Today, the island belongs to the daughter of a Russian oligarch. Roughly 30 kilometers away is Ithaca, home of Odysseus, doubtless the most famous sailor in history, at least according to many historians. In fact, Ithaca has one of the biggest natural harbors in the world. And still, it is the neighboring island, Cephalonia, which is known to be the Island of Captains. Many esteemed maritime families originate from here. Impressive mountains, craggy rocks, and green plains are characteristic for Cephalonia. In 1953, a disastrous earthquake destroyed almost every village. Argostoli, the capital, was almost entirely destroyed. 600 people died, and many survivors left the island. Today, the houses of the capital are all newly built. In the ancient world, Cephalonia was an important stop on the way to Sicily. The island was overgrown with black fir trees that were most valuable for the shipbuilding industry. As a consequence, Cephalonia was almost deforested, until British colonials started elaborate reforestation programs. Our next stop is also our last on our tour of the Ionian Islands. Deep in the south lies Zakynthos. For centuries, the island was under Venetian rule, and they named the island Flower of the East. Today, it is a paradise for beach-loving tourists. The 1953 earthquake struck the capital of the island, Kora, as well. And even though not much survived this tragedy, residents rebuilt everything with unmatched passion. This is where we meet Laurent Sorbet, who came here for quite a different reason than the Venetians or the tourists. For him, the main attraction is this: a certain turtle species called careta careta.
For now, 200 million years, the turtles, loggerhead sea turtles, are coming and nesting in this area. Now, of course, things changed.
Ever since tourists claimed this island, the turtles have needed someone fighting for them, someone helping them to return to the place they were born, to bury their eggs in the sand on the very same beach where they hatched. Using GPS, Laurent tracks clutches of eggs deep in the sand, fencing them off for protection from the tourists and their parasols.
Don't forget that a turtle is a marine animal. They are in the sea all their life. The only time they are not in the sea, they are nesting. If else they are all the day in the sea. And the males, as hatchlings, they are going to the sea and they will never go back to the beach. Never.
Whilst on their quest for nesting sites, turtles have no chance of finding an alternative location, somewhere less attractive for tourists. They need a certain kind of sand, the right grain size, humidity, and hours of sun in order to successfully lay their eggs there. Laurent's co-workers check and chart potential grounds and their temperature. At the least, major parts of the southern beaches are closed for tourists, in spite of its importance for the economy. This is thanks to Laurent's work.
You cannot stop every activity. It's not the reality. It's something that you have to manage, and it means that you have to plan. From now, this point, all the beach here is strictly protected. Here, on the other side, it's different.
This is where, during peak season, thousands of tourists come together, lining up parasols next to each other. But this used to be a nesting ground for turtles, too. From the end of May until the beginning of June, the nearly extinct turtle species comes to Zakynthos to mate and lay eggs. In these moments, Laurent realizes how fragile nature can be and how big our responsibility as humans truly is.
This balance, you can change it very quickly. And it's something, the magic is that you feel the balance and you feel that you are very far from it and you need to act, and quickly.
On the other side of Zakynthos is another highlight to be explored. It is the most photographed subject in all of the Ionian Islands. In a hidden bay lies a rusty shipwreck. Only a few people know the story of the Panayotis, which originated 30 years ago. While being chased by the Coast Guard, cigarette smugglers threw everything overboard, including themselves. The smugglers got away from the Coast Guard using lifeboats, but left the deserted ship to be destroyed. And so, it decays there since the day it was stranded. It has become a trademark of the Ionian Islands, almost more so than the picturesque coasts, the clean sea, the turtles, and all the green hills put together.